Welcome to a special edition of the Sports by Schmucks podcast titled Who Needs a New GM? Subtitled The Trade Deadline Spectacular Bonanza Extravaganza.
Period.
I added a couple words there.
Why didn't we just think of that to begin with?
Well, shut up. That's why, Sean. As you can tell, this is going to be a very casual edition as opposed to the
More
semi-casual
serious,
edition that we normally do. The trade deadline well, by the time this goes up, it'll be Friday, so it'll be Wednesday afternoon. Some big names actually got moved this year for a change as opposed to the regular,
Jay Unright blogging is the only thing that's amusing about the trade deadline?
Yes, generally, yeah. Or just watching the broadcasters struggle. And you know what? They do a good job considering that half the time nothing happens for the first 6 hours. So they do a pretty good job with nothing, all things considered. It must be hard to be on live TV for 5 hours with nothing happening. So good job to them, first of all. That's actually pretty good. All right.
I don't know if that was clapping or something else. But...
it's clapping.
We say formal.
All right, fine.
Oh my God, this is gonna be great listening. All right, so I guess first just impressions of the trade deadline in general, because remember I called it on Monday saying it was going to be a fantastic trade deadline with lots of moves, right? That's what I said.
No, you said it was going to be quiet. I
said the exact opposite. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there wasn't that many trades. It was just a lot more bigger trades that we expected to happen.
Well, there's still 20 trades, 38 players moved, and I think about 20 picks. So it's still a pretty good overall number of people being moved.
That's actually kind of surprising. It doesn't seem like a lot looking at it.
Well, because there's a lot of the major trades obviously get the notoriety, but there's a lot of stuff that just kind of happens like minor leaguers for minor leaguers, or just for depth purposes in the organization. So those ones don't get talked about a lot unless it's 8 o'clock in the morning and Ducky's got nothing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So and then you'll see Bob McKenzie actually try to, and he's an encyclopedia of knowledge. That guy, he's fantastic. Anyways, I should stop gushing over the TSN guys because I don't care about Sportsnet. I do not watch Sportsnet.
I watched Tim and Sid from 1 to 4, and that's all I watched for that point.
I listened to Tim and Sid. I love their trade song, the Darren Millard trade song. That was really good.
That was pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna actually talk about trades, or can we just talk about coverage for the entire time? Because I'm good either way.
We can talk about some trades.
All right.
I guess I'll fire away. You guys give me your opinions on the trades.
Cool.
Buffalo traded Matt Molson and Corey McCormack to Minnesota for Torrey Mitchell, Winnipeg's second-round pick, and Minnesota's second-round pick in 2016. Opinions, gentlemen?
Didn't Minnesota do this last year with Pominville, essentially? Didn't they just get the exact same player?
Pretty much.
A similar player again.
When you're looking at this trade, Matt Molson can easily be a 30 to 40 goal scorer in the league. This, kind of helps Minnesota, in my opinion, get past, get into the playoffs and possibly make a run. You have a lot of talent there in the first place with Pominville, Suter, Parise. Now you have somebody like Molson in the mix. I don't know. It's a good trade for Minnesota, in my opinion. It's a good trade for both sides. To be honest with you, Buffalo's going to stack up on some young draft picks, or some early draft picks, and get some young prospects, and hopefully those guys pan out. So,
yeah, and Minnesota's in a playoff spot now, so they're just adding insurance to make sure they can hang on to one of those wild card spots. Because based on the standings, it's it'll probably be hard for them to catch anybody above them in the Central Division. I mean, they're 10 points back with 20 games to play. I mean, that's a pretty. It can be done. It's not likely. So I think the addition of Molson is good. It's just I had Molson on my fantasy team, so I got to see him in Buffalo and just watch that. Well, not see him, but actually pay attention a bit. And I'm still worried about him not being with Tavares. They just seem to work so well together, and that was one of the reasons why I drafted him in the first place, expecting a full year of them together. The deal originally from the island to Buffalo made no sense to me in the first place. So I don't see. It's just kind of like a reaction thing to New York starting out so poorly. But I agree. Molson would be pretty good in Minnesota, and I guess it's on an all right haul for Buffalo.
Next trade?
Yeah. So Buffalo, once again, they were quite busy on trade deadline day. Traded Yaroslav Halak and a third-round pick to Washington for Michael Neuwirth and Raslav Kesla.
Neuwirth and Rusty Klesla.
Yeah. There's too many names I can't pronounce. Just go with it.
Well, you're used to football names. They're all pretty easy.
Smith, Jackson.
Yeah. Johnson.
Yeah. I guess I'll start with this one.
Yeah.
My honest opinion, I think a very good trade for Washington at this point. Yaroslav Halak is going to be a goalie that can come in. He's proven that he can win in the league. As far as defenses that have been in front of him, when he was in Montreal, didn't really have that strong of a defense, but played his heart out and actually got them very, very deep in the playoffs. For some reason, I think it was 2008. I don't know. I can't remember what year it was. But moving over to St. Louis, obviously he had more of a time split with him and Brian Elliott. Moving to Washington, I think he's going to get a lot of games. It's going to be more of a time split, but he is going to heavily be looked upon as a mentor for Holtby, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's actually kind of funny because Washington was the team that Halak made his name against in that first round with Montreal.
Yep.
Because he won them that series.
He won the series, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree with you. It's, doesn't make for interesting listening when I agree with you, but it makes sense for Washington Washington, that division is pretty much wide open to Met. As long as they're only 2 points out of third in the division because the team from the Metropolitan is probably not going to get a wild card spot. So they need to do everything they can to get up 2 spots in their division. And you know what? Adding Halak will win you games. And they gave up Neuwirth, who was playing behind Holtby. So it just gives Buffalo. It doesn't really give Buffalo much. I mean, Neuwirth is a fine goalie, but he was playing backup. And when you can pretty much trade a backup for a quality starting goaltender in the National Hockey League, you got to do it.
100%. In my opinion, Klesla is probably the head-to-head with Halak in that deal, yeah. And Neuwirth is more or less going for that third-round pick. So
true, yeah. And Buffalo would need a goalie on their roster.
Correct.
To play and actually makes sense for Buffalo if they want to keep the development going with Jonas Enroth to get Neuwirth as opposed to Halak for the final month of the season.
All right, and Buffalo traded once again Braden McNabb, Jonathan Parker.
Pass.
Okay. Calgary traded Lee Stepniak to Pittsburgh for their third-round pick.
That was good. Not really a big deal to kind of focus on, but Lee Stepniak, decent player. He's going to be a decent third, fourth line guy in my opinion. So a second line guy on some teams, but not many. Third round pick. To be honest with you, it's more of an overspend, I guess, in my opinion. I would probably see him going like a fifth or a sixth. I don't see him rated that high in value.
Well, good for Stepniak getting out of Calgary. That's all I have to say about that. I mean, he's gonna have a chance to win in Pittsburgh, a chance to go deep in the playoffs, something that he wouldn't have got to do with Calgary. So good for him. I mean, a little bit biased there as a former Leaf. I did appreciate his game when he played for Toronto.
Yeah.
But you know what? He is a quality player. He can at least give some help to the third and fourth line and add a bit of scoring to there too.
Yeah.
Which just makes Pittsburgh even more
lethal. Yes,
that's the word I was looking for. All throughout their lineup. So.
All right. Columbus traded Marian Gaborik to LA for Matt Fratton, their former Toronto player. Toronto's second-round pick in 2014, and a 2015 conditional pick.
Well, I was kind of I heard rumors of Gabrick going, and it kind of makes sense that, in the sense that he's been gone for pretty much for the majority of the year. He's been sitting on the IR on my fantasy team.
Yours, mine, both.
He's been sitting on the IR, so they've been winning without him. So it makes sense that they can get something for him, or just anything for him, because I like Frat, and I think he's a good speed guy.
Underrated.
I wouldn't say underrated. He just hasn't. I don't think he hasn't been given like a big chance to actually play for a full year yet. Like, he was up and down with Toronto, LA. He never really knew. Like, LA just can't score, so I don't think it was a very defensive system in LA. I think he can actually help Columbus with his speed, and it's kind of funny that now essentially the deal for Bernier for Toronto, where they traded Scrivens, Fratton, and their second round pick.
Has been blown up, pretty much.
Scrivens is now in Edmonton, and essentially part of that deal landed the Marian Gaborik. So
not bad.
All in all, it worked out for the Kings.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm going to say this deal works out for Columbus. Go against Brett. I do agree it does work out well for the Kings. Gaborik, as a player, has kind of had somewhat of a decline. I don't think Gabrick's not going to be the same type of player that he's been in the past. Gaborik he lost his speed, he lost his agility when he played in that Minnesota system. And he was in Columbus, and Columbus, again, is very, very fast, very young. I think Fratton's going to fit better into Columbus's system than Gaborik will in Los Angeles. And as well, you can't forget that Toronto has the option to either select that second round pick in the deal goes either this draft or next year's draft. So it's either a 2014 second round or a 2015 second round, depending on what Toronto wants to do with it, and a conditional draft pick as well, coming back in that deal. So, I mean, for Columbus to get a second round pick, Fratton, and another conditional draft pick, for a player that, in their lineup has put up, and again, you said that he's been on the IR and stuff like that, but I don't think that the lack of scoring within the Los Angeles system, the lack of offense, is something that Gabrick's not gonna succeed in. He's not gonna, be able to elevate his game in. So I'm gonna go with Columbus winning that deal.
All right, and the deal that makes me very, very sad that it happened. Dallas has traded Dan Ellis to Florida for Tim Thomas. Because who didn't want to see Tim Thomas and Roberto Luongo?
Pass. I don't care about this. They're backup goalie now.
Yeah.
Thomas is going to do nothing.
I don't care about it. At that point, you know what? Good on Florida. You picked up an actual backup goalie, and you sent away a goalie that's going to cause controversy between your new, brought-in starter. Florida's doing the thing that Vancouver never did, and that's selecting one guy to lead your team and put the confidence in him from the start. And that way, when he suits up and he plays for you, he knows I'm that guy. And a goalie playing with confidence is the best goalie that you can have in the league. So,
and don't forget, Luongo was on Canada's national team, and he actually did not show any reason why he shouldn't have been the starter. Just Price beat him out. It wasn't anything that Luongo did wrong. It was what Price was doing so well during the tournament.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Edmonton trades Alex Hemsky to Ottawa for Ottawa's 5th round pick in 2014 and a 3rd round pick in 2015.
It just seems kind of funny I know Hemsky's been declining like hell, but in previous years they've been offered. I can't remember any specifics, but I know they've been offered more. And he's been on the trade block for like the last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
So it seems like they were hoping he would turn it around one year, but he just kept declining, and they held onto the asset too long. They had to sell for like 25 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
Good for Ottawa. I think he'll be a nice fit in the Senators, or on the Senators, I should say. So I just think if they traded him last year or 2 years ago, they could have gotten more for him.
Yeah. Personally, I think Ottawa has actually done extremely well in this deal, and that's exactly what Brett said. I mean, they could have gotten a hell of a lot more for a player like Hemsky, because the night before they played each other, and he lit Ottawa up. And he will be I guarantee you, Hemsky will play on the first line with Spezza on one side and Milan Mahalik on the other side. And The thing that's going to be an issue is Spezza and Hemsky both like to pass the puck as opposed to shoot, and that could be an issue. But if they have open shots, they will take them, and it's probably going to be one of the most lethal first lines in the Eastern Conference.
You'll just see a lot of McCalloch from Spezza and Hemsky, or McCalloch from Hemsky and Spezza.
Exactly.
For the next year. And they needed something on that first line because Bobby Ryan didn't fit. Like, Bobby Ryan was a better fit on the second line, it seemed, but with Turris and MacArthur.
And that's where he'll stay. And that
yeah, exactly. That's why they need somebody to play with Spezza.
Yep. All right. Nashville trades David Legwand to Detroit for Patrick Eves, Cale, I'm not going to say this right, Gardencroc, and a conditional 2014 NHL draft pick.
I think it's just pretty much acknowledging the failure that Stephen Weiss has been.
Yeah.
Who was supposed to slide into that second line center role, and now Legwand's going to take over that because Weiss, even though he's been hurt, but he also, when he was playing, he was like scoreless for like 18 games or something like that. So
yeah,
something ridiculous like that. So I think he's going to fit in well. He's going to get some power play time. I was looking at it because again, Legwand is the guy I have on my fantasy team. I was looking into how this would impact him, and he wins faceoffs. He's just a solid overall player, and I think he'll mesh well with Mike Babcock and what he's going to do. I mean, I just think it's a good fit for Legwand.
Yeah, and in my opinion, behind Kessler, who people believed was going to be moved at the deadline, Legwand is your next best center that was on the trade block, in my opinion. He's exactly what Brett said. He's a good all-around hockey player. He can win face-offs. He can play on the penalty kill. He can play on the power play. He's a bigger body that can get in front of the net on the power play. So it's a good trade. It's a good trade for both teams. I mean, there's I don't really see any clear-cut losers in that deal.
Just a quick side note. Remember when everybody wanted Stephen Weiss 2 years ago at the deadline?
It's funny how things happen.
And now he's on the IR constantly. He did nothing. He barely did anything last year in Florida, and has, because of the injuries and just bad play. I think he's probably trying to do too much, but he just hasn't done anything in Detroit this year. It's kind of funny how things work out.
All right, and the big deal today, the Rangers trade Ryan Callahan, a conditional 2014 NHL draft pick, and their first round pick in 2015 to Tampa Bay from Martin St. Louis.
Right.
St. Louis just needed to man up, personally, in my opinion. I mean, who cares? There's a bunch of people who didn't get picked for Team Canada, and you got on Team Canada in the long run. It's not like after they did the injury replacement, it's like, well, Steven. Well, no, sorry, Martin. I'm thinking of Stamkos who got hurt. Well, Martin, yeah, you're good, but we're going to go with Claude Giroux instead of you for the injury replacement. It's not like he did that to him. He just said, look, you're not one of the best 25. And he got put on the team anyway when Stamkos got hurt.
I think that was planned all along anyways.
Well, to be honest with you, I think he was only put on the team after Stamkos was hurt, because personally, I probably would have taken Giroux. Between Giroux and St. Louis, I probably would have taken Giroux, but I think Yzerman was trying to lighten the mood a bit between St. Louis and the Tampa Bay organization, because heaven forbid Yzerman doesn't take St. Louis twice, all hell's going to break loose. Even though it pretty much already did.
Well, it's funny because St. Louis, Yzerman just kept saying, look, it wasn't me just saying you're not on the team. We all had a say in it. So it's almost him still trying to do damage control over the entire situation and saying, look, I might have wanted Martin on. I'm going to do that the entire time. I might have wanted Martin on, but this GM over here didn't, or this other guy on the team didn't. But essentially, it does go down to Yzerman's call in the end. So it still was his decision not to take him in the first place. I think as for Callahan, it was they were $200,000 off per year on his contract, and he wanted a no trade clause that New York was going to give. Yeah. So they had to move him. I mean, I think they got a really good. I mean, St. Louis has been one of the best all-around offensive players in the league for the last couple of years, and he's like 38, 39.
38.
That's 38. That's very impressive for St. Louis to pull off numbers like that. And you saw it in the game if you watched it Wednesday night. How he actually was kind of impressive. How he managed to get to New York so quickly. Well, I guess he probably had a plane ticket bought anyway, so that's the only place he wanted to go to.
Yeah.
But he meshed right away with former linemate Brad Richards. I was scared of that line when I was watching that Leaf game. I should have been scared of the Rangers shorthanded unit, but that's a different story.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, is this something that New York paid way too much for? Yeah. St. Louis is 38 years old. Okay. Yes, I understand his conditioning and his drive and ambition is still fresh, and he wants to constantly get better, and he feels like he's going to be a player that's going to play until he's 41, whatever it is. I'm pretty sure that both of them are UFAs at the end of the season anyways.
Yes.
And this is a deal where Tampa Bay scooped up a first-round pick in 2015, whether St. Louis re-signs or doesn't. And that conditional pick is based off of Callahan, I believe, re-signing. So if Callahan,
I thought if the Rangers got to the conference final,
yes,
they would get a first round. That second comes in the first.
Sorry, that's what it is. So at this point, you've now accumulated a first-round pick for nothing. These players can both not resign, and you've gotten a first-round pick for absolutely nothing on a team, and that's going to be a top 13 pick, unless New York actually makes the playoffs.
Which I think they're third right now in the Met.
Yeah, and I mean, for them to hit that, like to hit a wild card spot, like Brett was saying, like it's very difficult. Nobody in the Mets it's 3-3 that make it. No.
It's 3-3 guaranteed, and there's 2 wild cards.
3-3 guaranteed, and there's 2 wild cards. So, I mean, depending on how well New York actually does for the rest of the season, you might have a top 15 pick for absolutely nothing.
At worst, you get a second for nothing.
And,
if no one resigns.
And at worst, yeah, but that first round pick, they get no matter what. It's a first round pick in 2015.
Yeah.
So if
a deep draft too, a deep draft in 2015.
Yeah. And and Brett knows it's a deep draft, and for a team like New York, like I said, that might be a top 10 pick. So you've accumulated a top 10 pick for absolutely nothing.
And really, New York is a Henrik Lundqvist injury away from falling into the bottom 5. I would say.
Yeah. Heaven forbid.
I still think most St. Louis will sign. Sorry.
I think St. Louis will resign in New York. I mean, he met his wife there. He trains there around the area in the off season, and
so he demanded a trade there.
That's the only place he wanted to go. Yeah.
So
now whether or not they want him back.
Well, I imagine
I hope they'd want him back
with what they've given up.
Yeah.
I imagine they would take him back. So.
Yeah.
All right, and the big trade from the day before the trade deadline was the Vancouver Canucks trading Roberto Luongo back to Florida for Jacob Markstrom and Sean Matthias.
Good for Luongo.
Yeah.
Good for Luongo.
Yeah.
Getting out of Vancouver while he still can. Remember when he said his contract sucks, and then all it took was Vancouver to take back 15% of his salary, and then Florida was like, yeah, all right, that sounds good. But now they lost 2 franchise goalies
in a matter of 8 months.
Yeah.
Mike Gillis. Yeah, Mike Gillis is the only GM, I think, in the history of all sports, and hockey especially, that can trade away 2 franchise goalies in a matter of 8 months and still have a job.
Oh, I don't think that's going to be the case for much longer. After what was rumored with the Kessler deals, of why Kessler wasn't traded. I don't know if you heard about that.
No, I didn't.
Apparently there was an offer on the table that he was going to take. I don't know. This is just stuff that I've read on Twitter and, just sources, quote unquote, that they took away his power to accept the trade.
What?
You didn't hear that either?
No.
No, they pretty much said no. Like, ownership got involved and said, you can't make that trade. So either it's a terrible trade, or they don't want him.
They don't trust him.
They don't trust him. They don't want him making that trade. They're gonna wait for the next guy to bring in, the next guy they bring in to try and trade him.
Yeah.
So it's not a good sign for Mike Gillis.
Yeah. I think at that point ownership looks at it and they probably looked at what was done prior to deadline with moving out guys like Diaz, moving out Luongo, and then all the speculation that was going around Kessler. And I guarantee that ownership probably stepped in and said, you know what, we're going to review it, and if we don't think the trade is going to bring a marquee player, which people in Vancouver are going to want to come and see, we're not making that deal. Because if you give up Kessler this year as well, in a matter of 8 months, you've given up Corey Schneider, Roberto Luongo, and Ryan Kessler. And Sedin's hurt. Daniel Sedin's hurt.
The other Sedin looks lost.
Yeah, Henrik Sedin looks lost because his other half isn't out there with him. People in Vancouver, I have friends in BC and in Vancouver, and they either like Roberto Luongo or they don't like him. So a player like that, sure, get him out. But when you have essentially your franchise player, which realistically is Ryan Kessler, because they don't really enjoy the Sedins out there. They're not really fans of Sedins because they feel that it's too fancy hockey or too, it's not gritty enough. It's not blue collar. That's where a player like Ryan Kessler stands out in Vancouver. So that's probably why ownership stepped in and said, no, you're not trading him. Because if that was it, Vancouver would have probably diminished their fan base probably by about 75% after all the trades went through.
Yeah, I can see that happening too. I mean, yeah, you just can't really explain what Gillis was thinking. I mean, you thought they made amends. Actually, to be honest with you, this trade kind of came out of left field for me. Like I heard all this stuff about, say, Louis and Callahan and Vanek. You knew Vanek was going, you knew Molson was going, but Luongo, it just kind of happened. Yeah. And I don't know if that caught you the same way, or either of you the same way.
It caught me awkwardly, and I was kind of confused when Tortorella. I kind of seen it happening when Tort said, "Hey, you know what? I'm playing Eddie Lack in this Heritage Classic game because Eddie Lack gives us a better chance to win."
Yeah.
I don't get it. This is coming from a coach that said, "You know what? Like this is the goalie that I want. Trade away the other one," and he calls out his management, he does whatever, and then he's got the balls to go and say, well, I'm going to put in my backup because we have a better chance to win than the franchise goalie that I wanted to keep. To me, that doesn't make sense, but it looks like there's probably a lot more backroom, locker room issues that were going on, whether they be through management and Luongo, the coach and Luongo, management, the coach. Altogether, it's just the franchise itself right now is just in turmoil. So I think it's kind of what led up to it.
Bo Horvat better get up there quick, and he better put up 100 points in his first season, yeah. or else Vancouver will riot.
Yeah.
Again,
realistic expectations there, Brett.
Well, he's essentially the biggest piece that they got back from trading your two franchise goalies.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot. It's unfair to Horvat, who is probably going to be a decent pro, based on his numbers playing with London. But it's unfair. It's going to be unfair to him because he's going to be the link. He's the guy they essentially traded Corey Schneider for, because that's all it was. It was a first round pick.
Yeah, 9th overall pick.
And that's when he was taken. And then Markstrom's not going to be your guy because you're going to want Lack to be the guy now. Mathias is a good young forward, but he's not a name. The name you essentially got from your two franchise goalies is essentially Bo Horvat. Because Markstrom's not going to be your guy because Lack's going to. Oh, Vancouver, what are you doing? Oh my God!
Brett's rage.
Man, you know what? It's one of the first times that I normally don't feel bad for GMs making bad moves on other teams because I've been used to it, but I feel sorry for Vancouver fans after that.
Yeah. I will not be surprised if Markstrom is going to be the starter at some point. He was a starter for a little bit of the season when Theodore was down there with him. He's 24 years old. He's not. It's not like he's a 19 or a 20-year-old goalie.
True, yeah.
It's the matter of he's now going to be in a system where you know what, he might succeed. The change of scenery, the change of defense in front of him, the change of play style might be better. No offense, having a team like Florida in front of you, you're going to get pelted with shots. And I think there was one of the games that I watched in Markstrom's rookie season, he had a 56 save shutout.
Yeah.
He's not a bad piece to get back in that Luongo deal, but he's going to take some time to develop. Goalies usually hit their prime a little bit later on. We talked about this with Carey Price and the other day where, you know what, some goalies make the exception. And that's another thing. Dubnyk going to Montreal. Price is hurt right now. Is Dubnyk better than Peter Budaj? Is Dubnyk going to be the starter while Price is hurt?
Tokarski was out there last night. I think it was last night, 2 nights ago in Anaheim. Tokarski got the start.
Yeah. Right? But
yeah.
Devan Dubnyk, is supposed to be... that's the thing. When Price comes back, who's going down? Is it Budaj going down or is it Dubnyk? Who's going to play for Hamilton?
I think Tokarski's got to go back down,
too.
Well,
Tokarski's going to go back, is already being sent back down.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be Budaj and Dubnyk splitting time or playing well.
Dubnyk was placed on waivers in Nashville. So would that not be an AHL trade essentially where he would just report to Hamilton, or is he reporting to Montreal?
No, because technically he's still part of the NHL team. At that point, he didn't clear waivers. So,
okay.
Because they traded him before he cleared. So
right, okay, all right, makes sense.
Technically, he's going to Montreal. Montreal needs to put him on waivers, and then somebody can. Well, actually, no, Montreal. That's an awkward situation because it's past the trade deadline now.
Because now they only have those 4 moves, right? It gets into that territory when you have 4 call-ups or send-downs.
Yeah.
Or 4 transactions, I guess.
Yeah, you have 4 transactions in your team. I don't know. In my opinion, I have a feeling that Budaj is going to be the one that's sent down. I think Dubnyk's going to stay up and be the backup to Carey Price.
If I was Montreal, I'd keep Budaj. That's just me personally. I like Dubnyk. I like how he's played He played well enough later in the season for Edmonton before he got traded. He started out the season terribly.
Yeah.
He played well enough a couple years ago to get the contract. He played decent. He played well for Team Canada. He was not the reason they lost in the World Championships. That team just sucked.
Yeah, it was a terrible team.
So I don't blame that on Dubnyk, but that probably rattled him a bit. So I think he's a fine goalie. It's just that I think if in Montreal's situation, if they want someone who can get them a win when Carey Price needs a night off, Budaj's the better option.
Okay. Well,
that's just me.
Fine by me.
All right, and overall, high fives and face palms for the trade deadline.
Wait. How did we not talk about the Vanek deal, Sean? You're supposed to be the one just keeping track of all the trades we're talking about. How did we not talk about Thomas Vanek going to the Habs?
Because apparently I missed it when I was looking at all the trades.
Okay, well,
that's why I don't host these things, Brett.
Yeah, well, you're the one who said I'll take care of looking at the trades.
I don't know anything about hockey, sir.
Okay, well, at least you're honest.
Montreal traded Sebastian Kohlberg and a conditional pick in 2014 to the Islanders for Thomas Vanek and a conditional pick in 2014. Swapping conditional picks for a guy that plays in the Swedish Elite League that's probably never going to come over to the NHL.
I think this gets back to our original question of what are these GMs doing? Honestly, if that's all the Islanders could get for Thomas Vanek, I don't know how there weren't any. I don't know how there were 28 other teams calling him for Thomas Vanek.
Maybe at the last minute move, they kind of desperately panicked.
I would have rather taken Nikolai Kulemin and sent it to Toronto. I don't understand. It's a player that's never going to play in the NHL.
Yeah.
What's the conditional pick? Anyone know?
I don't know. It's probably something to do with how far he goes. Because Vanek signed for a while, isn't he? He signed a deal in
Vanek's a UFA.
Oh, is he? No. He turned down the big deal in Buffalo. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I know there's a big deal presented to him. That's right. Another player that doesn't want to be in Buffalo.
No. He turned down the offer from the Islanders.
But he also turned down a deal from the Sabres too.
Correct.
Yeah.
Penny just wants to get in New York.
He just wants to go to Minnesota.
Yeah.
That's been the speculation all along.
Really?
Yeah.
And it's funny because that's where Matt Molson got traded.
Yeah, I know.
And those two were traded for each other, and they're both UFAs end of the season. So chances are they're probably both going to re-sign. And if Minnesota has cap space to sign both of those players, Minnesota will probably be one of the deadliest teams in the Western Conference. The only thing is, you have a player that's a $7 million cap hit like Danny Heatley. That's got to get dumped this offseason.
He's an all-star, though.
For them to sign those two left wingers, you got to get rid of Danny Heatley.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Just being a smart ass.
Yeah.
But for a rental player, for a guy that's never going to play, good on Mark Bergevin.
Yeah, Montreal did a very good job in that trade. I mean, I normally don't say anything nice about Montreal, but I can't fault them for anything in that deal. They didn't give up a roster player. They gave up a prospect that's probably not going to have an impact on their team anytime soon. And so you get a month and a half of Thomas Vanek.
And then also depends on what the conditional picks are.
Yeah, but Montreal needs scoring. It's a good trade for Montreal. It's going to help them immensely in this tight race at the top of the Atlantic Division with Tampa and Boston, because Montreal made the biggest move in that division.
Yeah.
Other than Florida getting the Luongo, but that's more of something for next year.
Yeah. And one thing, you know what? Vanek might re-sign. You have guys like Plekanec, playing that they are
I think Montreal's too close to their cap to really add on like another $5-6 million player for an entire 2, 3, 4 seasons.
Yeah, but that can all be PK's needs is going to need to be re-signed too.
Yep.
But you get a lot more. What's the word I'm looking for? You have a lot more flexibility in the offseason to worry about that.
Of course.
You can worry about moving contracts or trading people.
Gianta are going to be gone soon. The main focus in Montreal right now, there's 3 players that are your main focus. One is Carey Price, 2 is Subban, 3 is Max Pacioretty. Those 3 players are the 3 players Montreal needs to keep in their lineup. Those are their ticket grabbers. Guys like Gianta, have fun. Bye. Yeah. Get out. They'll easily have somebody they'll easily have somebody come in like Vanek, and I think they would rather obviously keep Vanek and get rid of Gianta. Gianta's going the same road that Scott Gomez went down. It's got to be an old New Jersey Devils thing. You play for the Devils, and then you go to Montreal, and you shit the bed.
But there's no website, I don't think, of when the last time Gianta scored was.
Yeah.
Is there?
Not yet, at least.
Not yet.
Yeah.
All right, with that in mind, guys, I guess overall.
Oh, just one more thing. You were talking about Vanek's money. Andrei Markov's an unrestricted free agent this year, and that's $5.75 coming off the cap. So,
and he won't be re-signed.
He won't be. But
they have way too many. No, they have so many defensemen in their system that should be coming up and that should be playing in the NHL. It's Josh Doherty, Nathan Bellio. Trying to think who else there is here. Obviously, you have PK.
Are you just naming the roster from the Bulldogs right now?
No. These are guys that should.
I know. I'm just messing.
They should be up. Emlin's not expensive, and he's turned out to be a great defensive, a great addition for them. They don't need Markov, so they need that scoring on their teams. I wouldn't be surprised if the money from Markov goes to Vanek.
Wouldn't be a bad trade-off.
And again, this is depending on how deep they go in the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, Vanek if Vanek flames out in Montreal and does nothing, the fans are going to turn on him really quickly.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
And he probably won't want to be there if that happens.
This is getting a little long, so let's wrap up with the 5-5s and face palms for the trade deadline. Josh, go first.
All right. High five. I am going to go with. Damn.
Maybe I should have gone first.
Yeah. See, Yeah, you know what, Brett, you go. I gotta think about this.
Okay, my high five is to the Edmonton Oilers. Sure, they traded a bunch. Sure, they traded like guys like Nick Schultz, who is one of the tough guys. Well, one of the guys actually, committed to play hockey on that team. But they did something really nice for women's Team Canada goalie Shannon Zabados. They let her suit up for practice on Wednesday after they traded Ilya Brizgalov to Sean just messaged me something. Anyways, they let Shannon Sabados suit up for them for practice with Ilya Brizgalov being traded and Victor Fast not being on the team yet. So I just want to recognize an Olympian like that. That's fantastic. There was a Twitter campaign to actually get her to be the emergency backup. Obviously that didn't happen, but good job for Edmonton to do that. My facepalm, you know what? I'm really just sick of. I know I already said they did a great job, but they shouldn't. But the commentators of both Sportsnet and TSN shouldn't have to be there at 8 o'clock, starting at like 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, and go until like 5 o'clock at night. They know most of the deals don't happen until afternoon, so why not just say we're going to start at noon, and go from there. It's gonna make much for like that's when I tuned in. I didn't tune in until afternoon, until about noon. It's gonna make their lives a bit better because they're not gonna be tired the entire time, and you can still break trades if you want to. Just cut into your whatever edition of Sports Center or whatever curling game you're. You just do a quick note. Put it on the ticker. It's more reasonable if they don't start at 8 o'clock in the morning, and it'd be probably a better show for fans to watch as opposed to having to watch that guy play the guitar and sing.
Oh, you bastard.
Hey, I don't fault him at all, but I had no interest in it personally. So it's not any fault for that guy, but it's great he got the job and was able to do this and broadcast himself. But you know what? I really do not care.
All right, fine. My high five is going to go to the Tampa Bay Lightning, Steve Yzerman. Picking up a player like Ryan Callahan right now, as well as taking that first-round draft pick for essentially nothing. Even if it's a first-round pick for St. Louis, you're going to get a dynamite young player for a guy that's going to play a maximum of 3 or 4 years left in the league. So high five goes to him. Facepalm is going to go to Brian Burke, the acting GM of the Calgary Flames, whatever else he is, something president of players or whatever, I can't remember what else it is. The guy had an opportunity to dump off players like Mike Camilleri, who's a UFA, who's probably not going to re-sign in Calgary. He did move a lot of players, but Calgary has so much cap space on their roster right now that they could have easily taken larger contracts of high-level players that wanted out or that needed to be moved, and they didn't. And that's my facepalm for that one. I feel bad for the fans in Calgary because all you have is Sean Monahan.
You know what? I agree with you in that sense, but I'm also going to give it a high five to Brian Burke because he gave a fantastic interview to James Duthie.
That was fantastic.
And Duthie was just like, "What's going on there? Nothing." Okay. And I didn't like it when he was my GM and he did stuff like that, but seeing him do it for other teams is kind of funny.
It is. It's entertainment. It's humor. So.
But Burke has been, historically not a guy who moves people at the deadline. So should we have been surprised that Calgary didn't make a major move? No. But, I guess he really, if he made a major move, I think that would have been his thing to say, look, I'm going to be the GM of this team. I think by not doing anything, he said, look, that's for the next guy to deal with. That's my opinion on it, at least.
Yeah. Well, I hope they go out and they get a bunch of these UFAs that are available that don't resign, because whoever that new GM is, like I said, you have a shitload of cap to try and pull these guys in. So we'll see.
We will. Sean, do you have anything else to add about hockey?
Go Ottawa for getting Hemsky for literally almost nothing. I thought that was a pretty good trade. 5th and a 3rd for a guy who can step onto your first line and give you production. You can't beat that. Kind of sad that Tim Thomas and Luongo didn't get to work together. That would have been pretty awesome. But other than that, yeah, it's a pretty good trade deadline.
Yeah, it was pretty entertaining. And Sean, I'm going to pump your tires a little bit to say that I posted your article Thursday about the defensive side of free agency. So check that out on our website, sportsbyschmucks.blogspot.ca. Selection Sunday is next Sunday, so after that we'll have our brackets out, and as long as we get them in a timely fashion, we could probably post them
mine will be done
on the
right
website.
Sorry, Brett. This Sunday or Sunday after?
That would be the March the 16th.
Okay, perfect.
Oh yeah, next Sunday.
Yeah, we got conference basketball tournaments this weekend, which has a lot of Canadian content and some big conferences. So if you're a Canadian basketball fan looking for stuff, look at the Big Ten conference for Nick Stauskas on Michigan, Tyler Ennis in the ACC title in the ACC tournament in Syracuse, and there's other Canadians spread out through the NCAA. So
Wiggins.
Yeah, well, Wiggins in Kansas. Yeah, how did I forget Wiggins? Oh, maybe because I just don't care about Wiggins. Hey, you know what? Wiggins had his chance. Wiggins had his chance to impress me very early on, and he didn't. I've been more impressed by Jabari Parker this year. But that's a conversation for another day because no one's saying anything right now. So let's just move on.
I could start going off about it, but we're almost at an hour here, so.
Yeah. Anyways, Sean's at Sean_McD2. Josh is at SpadsDJ. Did I get it right this time?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm learning. I'm at SmithBR10. We've got the actual Schmucks Twitter account is Sport by Schmucks. So follow us there. Like us on Facebook. Like this video on YouTube as well. God, this is terrible. I'm tired. Subscribe to us on YouTube as well, so you can see when we post videos right away.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. This is awful. We're going to bed. Good night.